of the IGAD treaty is at least 26 years old. So I'll just give you a brief of it up to where we are. So I will not reopen the treaty because we have already presented it to our heads of state who have unanimously adopted it. In 1998, IGAD committed to adhere to the requirements, which included, but not limited to, having a treaty. Because of all regional economic communities, IGAD didn't have a treaty, it had an agreement establishing IGAD, which is what is in force now, which is our constitution. So in 2008, the summit, who are our heads of state, instructed IGAD to adhere to those requirements. And the conversation began, and the treaty draft was developed, and negotiations started with various experts from our member states. And for whatever draft that was available in 2014, our Committee of Ambassadors validated the treaty, but issued some directives, which were addressed, and in 2017, they fully validated the treaty. And that is the draft treaty that was presented before our heads of state in 2019, with a lot of hope that it was now going to be adopted. So those directives is what we have concentrated on from 2019. So internally, it was reviewed in 2020, basing much attention on the 10 directives that were issued. 9 of them were from Uganda, and 1 I think was from Kenya. I was not with IGAD then, but I have seen the history. In 2022, we convened the legal experts working group from our various countries. The first meeting, that is how much we really wanted to have a treaty that we would present before this ordinary summit in 2023. So we started the negotiations in 2022 with our legal experts. Then 2023, we had an intensive meeting with our legal experts, three from each country. And that is the time when our member state, our brothers in Sudan had an inability. That was last year. But we were privileged enough to have 2 of them appear, and then 1 came from the embassy in Nairobi, and luckily, he's actually a lawyer. So we were properly represented. And then we presented it before the heads of state in June of 2023, and it was unanimously adopted. And despite the fact that the directives had been given by Uganda, it was such a pleasure to see that it is Uganda who moved the motion to have it adopted. So it was a very happy moment for all of us. Eritrea have been away for quite a long time, and they needed to catch up. On the day of our summit last year, that is when they came back to the activities of IGAD. They had not withdrawn or been suspended or been expelled, no. They had just paused their activities with IGAD, and on that day, they announced they were back. So it only makes sense that we take them through it properly before they accede, because now they have to accede. They have not taken part in the negotiations. So that is where we are now for the ratification. So these are the directives that the heads of state gave in 2019, which one of it had already been mentioned, maintaining a lean organization without replicating other recs. That is why things like the parliament was removed, legislative assembly was removed, because we don't have to replicate. We should actually be like, we need to work together for the betterment of the region. So the other directive was to focus on areas of comparative advantage over other recs. But on thinking about it, yes, this was the directive. But you see, we looked at it and decided comparative advantage will probably most likely refer to offering services at a lower cost than other recs. But we opted as IGAD to go towards the absolute advantage, which now translates it and makes it like offering services more efficiently than other organizations of a similar stature. So that is what we did. Being rule-based, of course, we have our rules of procedure, but we are now working towards having separate rules of procedure for our 3 separate organs. Right now we have 1, which covers the summit, the Council of Ministers, and the Committee of Ambassadors. But over time, we have seen that different organs have their own different modalities, and we would want themselves to come up with their rules separately. So that is part of our way forward going ahead, but it is not such a big problem because most of it is very straightforward and clear. Our legal experts already have the drafts of what we came up with. The treaty properly describes the chairmanship of IGAD, and it is yearly, it's alphabetical order. So each country will have a chance. Of course, except countries where the executive secretary is from at that time cannot be chair. And now we will not also have the vacuum of what if the chair is not able to attend? Who is going to chair? Now we know that the next chair, who will be known because it's alphabetical, takes over as the chair. And who's the rapporteur? The erstwhile, the previous chair becomes the rapporteur. So that one has been resolved, because that also came up last year when we had to have an urgent extraordinary meeting after Sudan crisis elapsed. We had to have a meeting the next day. It was a bit of a challenge because Sudan have been our chair. So who was going to call for the extraordinary? But because of the urgency it required, it happened. And then develop or enhance framework for the council to constantly review activities. Council meets twice on ordinary session, one of them being just before the summit meets. So that one has been done because we now have a calendar of policy organ meetings that we have presented before the committee. That was last February, and it was adopted. So now we have clear dates of all our meetings. Then we have to demonstrate the leap from a coordinating body to a REC, like what we are trying to do right now. We are a REC, yes, but now we need to have a treaty in place. We need to also enhance our reach to different bodies in our member states. That can only happen through us having the treaty. Then table the draft before the member states experts, then before IGAD policy organs. We did that, and it was adopted. So very briefly, the structure and context of what you have, I gave to you yesterday. It is 63 articles divided into 6 chapters. Definition, purpose, that is chapter 1. Organs of the institution, chapter 2. Areas of cooperation, which are 18. Chapter 3, cooperation with other RECs. Chapter 4, financial provisions. Chapter 5, general transition and final provisions, including saving provisions, are under chapter 6. Our aim, our intention, and our hope is that by the time we go to the next ordinary summit in June, the executive secretary can give an announcement and say, now our treaty has fully been ratified, and we are probably waiting for the 60 days before now it comes into force. So that is our goal and intention. Yes, this is just a brief, like when you look at the definition, we have the sectoral council that has been added, part of what has been added to the definitions. Previously, the establishing agreement just has 8 definitions. Now we have 15. Some of it we've split. Like we have the committee of experts and we have the committee of ambassadors, properly defined and articulated. Sectoral council, we have the council of ministers, but we also have the sectoral council who plays such a big role because of the technical capacity. As much as our organ is the council of ministers, but there are sectoral ministers who do a lot for us in our different divisions, and then they also now have a place properly defined for them. Then chapter 2 is the organs, the assembly, council of ministers, committee of ambassadors, secretariat, and now the treaty actually gives assembly the mandate to be able to establish any other organ or institution. Right away, that permission is given in the treaty. And then now we may ask, why have the treaty? But again, it's just a reiteration of what I've said through the presentation. It reinforces us as a REC, gives us a mandate to operate as one. It has strong emphasis on the economic integration and social development, taking us back to the AEC. And then Grand Summit mandate to establish an organ. I said that. Inclusivity, because it was discussed by experts over the years. 26 years, a long time, when we came up with a good document. The longevity of it, because in the agreement establishing IGAD, there's a lot of mention on frameworks and strategies which highly likely would just last, like say, 5 years. So that was removed, and we remained with the objectives, which can go up to 30, 50 years and so on. We brushed out all programmatic language. The agreement was limited in form for the reasons that I have given, and also this treaty, after it comes into force, it allows for amendment, which would not take more than 120 days before a decision is made on it. And then right now we already have one deputy executive secretary. It is, yes, a provision in the treaty which has not been ratified and not in force. However, in 2019, IGAD structure was adopted by the Council of Ministers, and it has mentioned about 2 deputy executive secretaries. So as we are technically and legally, the deputy executive secretary is under the rules of our rules and procedures. But you see, we want it to be as per the treaty after it's ratified, so that he is under the Council of Ministers, because the executive secretary is under the Assembly. So those are the regularizations we would really want to do. IGAD has morphed over the years. Then we talked of the absolute advantage of IGAD, which I'll just quickly give you a snippet of it, and then the audit committee. Among them is, of course, peace and security. We have the CEWAN, which is the Center of Excellence on Conflict and Early Warning, established in 2002. We have this center under Director Nyambura, Center of Excellence in Preventing and Countering Violent Extremism. Indeed, those are absolute advantages. Still under peace and security, we have the preventive diplomacy and mediation, where we continuously conduct preventive diplomacy to prevent disputes from arising or escalating. We also conduct mediation through structured, interactive processes to resolve conflicts. We also have another, the mediation support unit, which is still under peace and security. And what was the organizing and addressing transitional security threat and organized crime, which restructured what was then known as ICPAT into now ISSP, the Structuring IGAD Security and Sector Program, addressing region security matters on a holistic manner. Other than peace and security, another absolute advantage of IGAD is the climate variable and change, where we have the Greater Horn of Africa Climate Outlook Forum, whereby the World Meteorological Organization actually recognizes it. The other institutions, some of them are in, the ones I've just named under peace and security. We have MSU in South Sudan. We have CEWAN in Ethiopia. We have, so we are across our member states, in short. This one is in Nairobi under ICPAC. The next one, we have the Disaster Risk Management Program, which was initiated in 2004, plays a pivotal role in advancing disaster risk reduction, water resources, groundwater resilience, you know, the wonderful work that is done around, especially around our cross borders. Then there is the agriculture and food security, food system resilience, the blue economy, the transhumance management, livestock development. Then we also promote socio-economic integration and cross-border development, like the famous Moroto, the work we do there, cluster of cross-border cooperation, corridor development, continental trade, pandemic surveillance, promotion and integration of displaced people, sanitary and phytosanitary. We may talk of integration, but majority of the other regional economic communities will concentrate on capitals. But we all know that trade integration all starts at the border.